Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas.
I'm Heidi Henry, and I'm not really in your face today, Murray, because we're going to talk about three really important topics. And they're not in your face topics, they're very conversational topics on the debate, on our opportunity to meet and hear from Joe Biden yesterday, and on Nancy Pelosi's historic moment yesterday. So not in your face from the edge of the Great Red Divide, just here working on delivering the news to the human race.
Absolutely.
And before we start, Murray, I just want to, I'm going to pull the microphone away so you can see. Today we learned the sad passing of Elijah Cummings, who is, if you can be anyone in this world, be an Elijah Cummings, right?
He was an amazing leader, inspirational, strong, he was everything you want a statesman to be.
And that's why I wore my Make Racism Wrong Again shirt today, because if anybody did powerful work for human rights, civil rights, it was Elijah Cummings.
Absolutely.
And a foe of the current president, which was greatly amusing. So.
And today I'm sporting my Democratic donkey shirt. This is going to look kind of weird because it's lower, so you see my Democratic donkey.
So we're forward thinking today.
Yes, we are.
So let's talk about the debate.
Okay.
This was the last in the series of debates that we've done. The fourth debate. We had 12 people on the stage, Murray. Some people are very familiar with. Some are pulling in the low figures. And here is my takeaway. We keep talking about the same stuff like something's new, and nothing's new. These are the same points we've been talking about all the debates. My solution, the Heidi Mama solution,
okay.
We need to have a roundtable discussion, not an attack point. We need to split them in half, sit them at a round table with a moderator, and fully develop these talking points without attack.
I like that idea a lot. Although I will say that the debate was far more interesting and substantive than the other debates that we've seen. The other debates felt very much like forums, like they didn't delve into the issues.
Too many people.
And even though there were a lot of people, I felt like there was more exchange of ideas and critique of plans, which is more debate-like. And I did appreciate that. I learned a lot more than I did in the first two.
I think my first takeaway is this is the first time I haven't seen every candidate, especially a couple of them, their whole debate tactic was, let's go after Joe Biden. And trying to make him say something bad about Obama. That was really disturbing to me in the first three debates, and I'm so glad that we moved past that. I mean, this time they went after Warren.
They went after Elizabeth Warren. And I'd like to point something out.
Yes.
CNN, a reporter, asked Elizabeth Warren about her healthcare plan about a week or two ago.
Okay.
And said, Senator, will this raise taxes on the middle class? And she said, it will lower cost. That's a semantic distinction. She kept repeating it will lower cost. She refused to say yes, it would raise taxes. In the debate, one of the first, when they addressed the issue of health care, it was a direct attack on Elizabeth Warren by the wording that they used, exactly what she denied their reporter before. So to me, that was stacked, and I thought it was cracked.
So what was your takeaway on that, Murray? Because we talked about it in our pre-show about the semantics of the wording. Now, I'm of the opinion that no matter which of those candidates are elected, we will have better health care than what Trump is offering, which is nothing.
Absolutely.
So, and we will have health care for the people, including people of my age and older that have pre-existing conditions, because we are one big giant walking pre-existing condition at this age, So what's the difference in those semantics? Because I think it's important for people to understand.
Well, and this is the frustrating part about the media, about picking a fight, digging in on something that. And it's Elizabeth Warren's fault for not being more clear on the
100%.
explanation of this. So I think she could have nipped the 10-minute attack in the bud had she used it better. So And when you watched it, you swore
Yeah.
that she said she would not raise taxes for the middle class, and she didn't. And that's why the reporters kept attacking her and everyone else kept attacking her.
Yes.
She said she would not raise cost. And
I heard taxes, but it was cost because we went and reviewed the transcript to make sure that the wording was right, because Murray had heard cost and I kept saying no, she said taxes, and we were debating it in the car coming home from Davenport, Iowa yesterday.
Yeah.
And we wish we would have recorded it because
it was good.
Sometimes our car debates are just so awesome.
We got to start doing that and just adding clips for our subscribers.
I know, our rolling debate.
Right. So we read the transcript, and the transcript said that she had said cost. And that's why they kept going after her. Now, the explanation behind this, what all she needed to say is that taxes may go up. I mean, that would be a soundbite, and that's why she's not using it. But costs will go down. And she needed to put that at the end of the statement.
Yeah, but
she needed to say was, right now, the average American, between premiums they pay to their employers.
Right, out of pocket.
Between
Co-pays.
Deductibles and what level of insurance, the average American spends about $10,000, way more than that. This is the conservative end, on health care alone.
I wish that was all I spent a year.
Right. We are so much more than that.
Yeah.
But the average American spends $10,000 a year on health care. So what she is pointing out is that you will not be spending $10,000 a year on health care. You will have $10,000 more in your pocket, but your taxes will go up to help pay for the system.
But you want
so
a healthcare
instead of
premium.
paying, you may pay $2,000 a year, $3,000 a year more in taxes. Mm-hmm. But that still puts $7,000 a year more in your pocket. It's cost.
I told you, but Stan and I are a blended family. He's on Medicare and I'm not, and I know, I know how much better his healthcare is than mine, and how much cheaper. And I think that if people understood clearly that the taxes will offset the fact that you pay a premium for everything, and
tax is a hot button word.
It's one of those words.
And I don't even know how many average people understand where they pay taxes and what they pay taxes for.
Well, I think most people don't. And, a lot of times when I was canvassing, when you were canvassing, and they'd want to talk to you about Illinois taxes and they'd want to talk to me about federal taxes, they don't cover the same things
at all.
So how we would tax locally for Illinois things, police, fire, education, that sort of thing, is not what you would pay for military, farm subsidies, etc., for federal. So they're not the same things, and and then you get local township taxes, city taxes, county taxes that are completely different. And taxes are a big conundrum. They're not meant to be anything but clear as mud.
Yeah, that's an excellent way of putting it. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, I guess to Elizabeth Warren, I'd say you need better talking points. And, hurrah for you for every time they came after you, turning it right back around at them and sticking to your points.
But if it was a clearer definition, if you can find a way to, in 20 seconds, explain what you mean.
10-second soundbite.
It will help remove that barrier.
Well, and we have to understand, and Bernie Sanders said it best, healthcare is a very cruel industry. Anytime that I've needed to I'm going through this thing where I have to have some dental work done. I've put off my entire life because I'm dental phobic. So I have to have it done.
Sorry, dentists out there.
And I found out that my ageist dental policy won't cover what I need to have done, so it's going to be all out of pocket. Yippee. The healthcare industry is cruel because if I don't take care of this issue, it's going to become a larger health issue instead of a dental issue, which dental issues and health issues are the same hand in glove and shouldn't be separated. But It is a cruel thing. I went through that with my son before ACA, where he would get redlined out of care. When we met Joe Biden yesterday, I thanked him for ACA because he was part and parcel to that. But when the healthcare industry takes $100 billion of our hard-earned money, not our tax money, right out of our pocket, $100 million in profit off of our sickness, off of our illness, off of our need, and puts it in their pocket. It's for-profit healthcare. And we need to do away with the for-profit healthcare industry.
We need to do away with a lot of for-profit industries that are related to government. As far as I'm concerned, I understand we need contractors and we need, to build things and but I believe very strongly that the monitoring and maintaining of any system and program should not be overseen or done by for-profit companies.
It just, when you
Greed leads to more power in politics, leads to corruption, leads to deception.
Anytime you put a layer of profit between people and service, the people always suffer.
Absolutely.
Always. And Murray, I've said time and time again, if we fought as hard for the Pony Express as we fight for Blue Cross, which is my insurance company, and the for-profit healthcare industries, our mail would still be coming by horseback.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why are we fighting for something that has outlived its usefulness and wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for Nixon trying to give one of his buddies a little money? We didn't have this before Nixon, and if you don't know that history, you need to look it up because.
But we're not going to go into that history.
No.
We've got so many things
Heidi can segue into that.
We've got so many amazing things that we can talk about from this. But we do want to wrap up the debate talk and then talk about
our meeting with Biden.
Joe Biden.
But we talk about opposites. But we also had some really good rhetoric from Kamala Harris on women's
reproductive health. When the health question came up, she started in on women's reproductive health. She brought it up. It was excellent. Each one of the debate candidates that night, sans Tulsi Gabbard, had really brilliant moments. Buttigieg, I felt, you can tell where their wheelhouses are and where they are good. And it's really nice to see.
Yeah.
So then you have to kind of break it down and go, well, who's the most well-rounded or who appeals to me the most as you're watching these. And so, Buttigieg was amazing in his defense of being in Syria. Tulsi was trying to make it about an endless wars and regime change. But that goes back, and yes, there was an effect from the Iran and Iraq, and yes, but that's not why we were there or what we were doing. And so he handled it so well. And
he did. But the millennials, actually the generation, the younger, just graduated high school people, had a huge issue with Buttigieg. So my Twitter feed blew up.
Really?
Because of Beto, Buttigieg calling Beto's gun policy, which I don't necessarily agree with. I understand where he's coming from because living in El Paso, being an El Paso native, this is very raw for him. But for Buttigieg to call it a shiny objects bill, oh God, that was... I didn't really see much of that, but I can totally see that. The people who have suffered, and right now we are all 6 degrees of separation from somebody who's died from gun violence. I know I am 2 degrees from that. And the problem with calling gun control, gun legislation, gun safety legislation a shiny object does not set well with the children, the young people who are dealing with this in active shooter drills every damn day of their lives. So do I agree with Beto that we go disarm everybody? Absolutely not.
And I think Buttigieg he has the right intent, but he didn't deliver it right.
For a smart guy, that was a bad move.
Yeah, that was not a smart. But what I do like is seeing them when they are comfortable, not doing the talking hand motions that you do in forensics, actually normal gestures.
Yeah.
And so that was good. I Tom Steyer,
He was
2
great.
thumbs up, man.
Yeah.
Totes. Listen, I'm not a big fan of having billionaires in power. Never have been. Was suspect about JB. Sorry, I was. Because of that, because we've always had bad experiences when you put someone like that in a position. And I was worried about numerous other things. But I will say that he's been amazing for the state of Illinois. And he puts his money where his mouth is, JB.
Yeah, okay.
And so...
I thought you were talking about Steyer. I was
No,
gonna say he's
no.
from New York.
So I actually have a better appreciation for what he could bring now, having been through Illinois.
So,
Because after 4 years of Billionaire Nightmare from Hell...
But you have to, I think my thing with JB and with Steyer is that there's billionaires that take their money and make more profit, that take more, and I'm going to use Jeff Bezos for that, out of Amazon. And then you have billionaires and Mark Zuckerberg, who obviously is in it to win it all, not in it for the people. And then you have people like Pritzker and Steyer who've taken their billions and their philanthropic works, me and my speech impediment, have been, what they've done with their money to help other people has been stellar, has been wonderful, and has changed the lives of many people. So I'm not afraid of a billionaire like Steyer or Pritzker. I am terrified of a Bezos or a Zuckerberg.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the debate, bottom line, is study the Honest Ads Act. I'm really curious about that. A majority of the Trump supporters want background checks. Joe Biden knows his foreign policy backwards and forwards.
That was the first time, just a quick note, for me, listening to him when he spoke about his son really resonated with me. And what he said was, he's a grown man. He made his own decisions about where to work and what to do. We didn't talk about it because...
I don't go to work with my kids.
And the media was asking him, why didn't you tell him not to? And he's like, he's a grown-ass man. I raised him. He's on his own,
Right.
and it's up to him. And
did your parents ever tell you what to do at work?
yes,
Did
all
they?
the time.
See, my parents are like, I'm just glad she has a job.
No, I had. It's a whole other story. I love your mom. We won't go into that.
Yeah.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
We don't have enough hours.
But I never have told my children where to work, how to relate with their bosses.
Right, and
what
some
kind of
parents
deals to
do though,
make.
and
Yeah.
I do believe that the Trump family tells them
Well,
exactly what and where to do.
because they're a bunch of robots.
Right. Well, there's 2 different tracks
Weirdo
of parents
robots.
there.
Yeah.
So I liked what he said. It appealed to me. It showed that he's not a helicopter. It showed he can give control to others. And I don't know, that resonated. And the other thing was the first time I have heard him seem presidential at all was when he was talking about foreign policy, particularly when he said, I am the one person on this stage who I didn't like the way he phrased it as in, on day one can right this ship. But later on in that sentence, or in his little talk, not debate, response, whatever. Yeah. In his response, he said, I am the one who can begin to restore faith in the world, in our allies. And I have to say he's right.
Yeah.
Because he's a known factor. He has an established reputation. If foreign affairs is the most important part of this presidency, then the next president, then yeah, I would say Joe Biden definitely can begin to reestablish credibility with our allies. And that's so very important.
Well, yesterday we drove out to Davenport, Iowa, to listen to Joe Biden speak. And neither one of us have ever gone to see him speak in person. We've heard him on television. And I think it's just like when we decide to do a lot of things, Marie, it's because we only hear the sound bites on TV. So we decide that we need to learn more. So that's why we went out to go see Joe Biden, because, you know, we've been pretty open about the fact that, well, I'm pretty open about the fact that I'm a pretty hardcore progressive, and maybe he's a little more corporate Dem for me. But at the same time, totally loved him as VP. He was awesome. And he was so insightful. Now, Murray didn't love how his speech delivery, but he was talking about very serious foreign policy issues.
He did.
Very,
His
serious.
speech yesterday was so well put together and intelligent, and it was an excellent speech.
It was perfection on foreign policy, because what we don't have right now is a foreign policy leader in the White House. We have somebody who uses his ego and whim and lack of education, lack of understanding of history to govern our troops, our armed forces, that we increase the military budget for exponentially under. And now that they're even more powerful than ever, we have this, we have a fly in our studio. Now that he's more powerful than ever, he uses or misuses our forces, and has put people literally in harm's way and caused the death of people, the Kurds. He has caused and is causing the death of the Kurds by the Turkish forces. And the thing that I got from I took 7-8 pages of notes when Biden was speaking, because I was just completely sucked into the speech, and I'm writing down notes. And the thing that I came away with is Trump's America First policy means an America that is alone, that stands alone, that is isolated, and isolated without our allies, we fail. Marie.
Absolutely.
We can't.
Well, that's a part of nationalism.
Yes, it is.
That's a part of this whole entire overriding ideology of a Christian, right, isolated society. And those that want to go back to that have no idea about they.
Well, we've never been alone. We've always been a nation of immigrants. We've always.
But I'm saying, but on the world stage, we were isolationist before World War
One.
Yeah, so we stayed out of pretty much everything.
We were Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we became more involved, and then that's when we became the world's police, and or at least the phrase. So the phrase goes.
We started this massive military buildup after World War.
And then and then we got sucked into projecting. Here's where we went wrong. We got sucked into projecting our beliefs and ideas and concepts onto other nations.
Right. We started nation building. And
we did.
That was nation building, especially after World War II, seemed to be part and parcel to who we were as Americans. And the problem with that is when you take on the mantle of nation building, instead of just addressing atrocities, when you try to do regime change, when you try to make things a mirror image of yourself with people who aren't on that page.
And that's, again, another reason why, this male versus female brain. So I talked to my mother on the phone the other day, and now she's in her mid-80s. Yeah. She's an independent woman. She lives in the home that her and my dad built. She is sharp and whatnot.
That was the house you were planning to buy.
Yes, the house that we still are planning to buy it. We just don't know when and how, and we still want to do that. Yeah. But so she's just amazing, and as we're talking, we started talking about the debates, and she brought up I told her we were going to see Joe Biden yesterday, and she brought up that she loves Joe Biden. She's always loved Joe Biden. He's great. He's amazing. But she's worried he's too old. Now, this is coming from the older set, a giant voting bloc. And it's not just her opinion on that. Yeah. Right, one of his peers. And not just hers. It's many people in her little group feel like he's too old. They see him starting to, they see the little faux pas and the slips and the not wording. And we have to remember, he's done this forever.
He's always made speech gaffes, always.
Right.
Like Ford would always trip over things and fall down. Biden always trips over his tongue. Yesterday,
he was pretty much flawless.
Flawless, no gaffes.
I mean, honestly, it was
amazing.
Really good.
It was wow. All I kept thinking is, that was the first time since he, in this election cycle, I thought, wow, I could really vote for Joe Biden. He really pulled me in, So,
and that's kind of a little bit where Heidi and I differed. Mm-hmm. So the content was absolutely great. He delivered it flawlessly. But the problem in my estimation was there was no excitement. There was no... And the topic was a very serious topic.
He doesn't deliver like I deliver, where there's a lot of podium pounding.
Well, and not even podium pounding. And Heidi's like, well, I think and she made a good point that the topic was very serious. Yeah. But there was this, while this topic was so very serious and the environment was very quiet, it was still quite lackluster. And then what I found really interesting was talking to some folks afterwards and seeing what their impressions were. And one gentleman who seems far more progressive but didn't declare who he was.
Oh, yes, he did. He even had a picture of his candidate on his phone.
But he
He came there to find fault.
But he was impressed with his speech, with his policy. He was hoping that he would bring up what had happened earlier in the day and a response to that.
To Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I didn't know anything about it either until I got home. He was talking about it, and I was completely unaware because I had been up taking care of my 97-year-old dad during the day with a long commute to meet Murray from Glen Ellen in the Chicago suburbs to Ottawa to meet with Murray to Davenport, Iowa. I spent a lot of time in my car, in your car yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
I completely missed it. So did he miss it because it was a travel issue for him? Or was this just such an important speech to make, my opinion?
Right.
That even though what happened with Nancy Pelosi yesterday, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, the gravitas
and you know what?
Subject
I have to say, on one hand, I didn't necessarily agree with the guy who was like, he wanted him to make a response. I think his response was the importance of being a leader on the world stage and our allies and foreign policy. So I didn't think that the guy was necessary. I kind of like that he didn't address it and that he did stick. I just wished his delivery. But then, I got to give this my little nugget. So we talked to several other folks who were there and met some great people. But it was a small gathering, maybe 250 people. There was a ton of press, almost as many presses.
Yeah. As observers.
As observers.
And in Iowa is a very white state, and 3% of the room was not white, which is exactly the demographics of Iowa. So you killed it there, So you got it exactly right. And of course, I'm doing percentages in my brain because when we go into a lot of these things, a lot more of the Trump things, we count the not white people because it's just kind of ingrained in us because there's never not white people in Trump things or very few. So it's kind of trying to get the demographics of the room. But not only was there people of color there was people of ethnicity not white. There were people, Native American people, there was Asian, Hispanic. It was a really good cross-section of the Democratic Party present, and there were a lot of older white people, but it was good. And my probably my least favorite thing is I went up to introduce myself to Joe Biden and do a plug for Heartland Mamas, and I said, and we have a podcast called the Heartland Mamas. Unbeknownst to me, Murray's standing behind me in the selfie line, and they pushed her back and said it was the last picture. And I'm up there. I'm telling Joe Biden, we have a podcast, and she's not in the picture.
Right.
So he's probably thinking.
So you can see it. I did photobomb unintentionally, completely unintentionally.
He's probably thinking you and your imaginary friend have a podcast, and I just felt like such a fool when I turned around and I'm facing her, and she's not in the frame with me. And I thought, I just said we had a podcast.
So let's talk a little bit about his team, what was going on. So I noticed, because I do campaign consulting as well, and policy consulting, I notice everything that goes on very
She
carefully.
notices the bones. I pick up the emotion of the room.
Right.
And she picks up
the
bones.
So sorry. I totally forgot what I wanted to say.
I'm sorry.
Before. No, it was my fault. I jumped. Yeah. What I wanted to say was, after talking to so many folks who were Biden supporters, that were there to caucus for him, that were excited about seeing him, there's, I would say, a large percentage, and I can't really quantify it, but a significant portion of the people that were there all have very similar personalities. There was it was a very calm, even before he came in, before he spoke, it was a calm, sedate type, and these people were softer spoken and thoughtful, and just like a different personality type I met more of there than I have at other venues.
I think in talking to people, because I met a lot of undecided voters, a lot of people that hadn't made a commitment to who they're going to caucus for. And Marie and I are going to talk more about a caucus, because we're going to attend the Iowa caucus. And the one thing I got from one of my Facebook friends, and I can't remember which one, is that he felt it was very racist for Iowa to go first because it's predominantly white. When they got up to introduce Joe Biden, that wasn't their claim to fame. That wasn't why they were interested in being first. They were interested in being first to be first, not because they are white. And I just wanted to say that, because I was watching for that underlying level of racism, and it just completely wasn't there. It was more of a state pride. We're number one. We're first in the nation. You know, that sort of thing. And it had nothing to do with race. And all the time I've spent in Iowa, it has never been about race.
Oh yeah.
So but I wanted to put that in because I think it's an important thing to cover. So
the other thing I wanted to mention, which I had started talking about, is the mechanics of the campaign. Yes. So I watch that. I see that.
That's
people
her
learn
job.
from the. That's what I do
in real life.
Yeah. So I'm disappointed in the presidential candidates thus far that I've encountered in Iowa and their organizational structure.
But they organize with some very young people.
But,
these are all high school and college graduates.
So, Bill, jeez, I saw Bill
Joe.
on the screen.
Yeah.
Joe, in the Selfie Line, for example, Joe would talk to people, and he would talk, and he's the kind of guy who is touchy-feely.
He takes your hand with both of his hands, and he looks you in the eye.
Talks to you about like, and not just, oh, thank you so much, vote for me, but actually about things that are relevant. And so that's part of why I think they had to move him on, and they kept trying, and then you'd see an aide go, hey, we gotta go, let's,
we gotta get to our next event.
Right. And in that I understand, but go ahead.
Well, so by now we've been in a few Selfie Lines, me more than Murray, because I've traveled a little bit more.
And I don't really like the
it's real people-y for her, and I'll just wade right into a whole bunch of people. It's like,
I prefer to observe and see everything and figure out what's going on.
She wants to be from the outside looking in. I'm jumping with both feet.
The center. Yeah. That's why we work well together.
Well, and I told you when I was in college, I did reporting on. Was a rock reporter for my college paper, so you had to wade through groupies to talk to and then they'd confuse you for a groupie, but that's another show in itself. So here's the thing with Biden. Every single person he tried to make a personal connection with.
Right, and he's amazing. He made a personal
connection.
He's great, but again, for me, I don't know, there was something that just didn't, I think there could have been something more. But this is what really frustrates me as a campaign consultant,
there was
as
no
a
organization
consultant.
for the Selfie Line.
Right. Well, and it wasn't just there wasn't any organization for the Selfie Line. They handed out small pieces of paper. And on those pieces of paper, it said, Biden for Iowa. Here's
No
our
hashtags.
social media.
No consistency.
Facebook is
One
a
thing.
different one.
Twitter.
Snapchat is a different one. Twitter is a different one.
Instagram is a different one.
So they're all
There's
different
no consistency.
ads.
So
right.
if you're on Joe Biden's team, you guys need to get this together.
All you
don't
need
have
to do
time.
is hashtag Joe for Iowa, which is your Twitter handle.
Exactly.
But could also be, and I was trying to say, because if I search Joe Biden Iowa, all of a sudden all these hashtags will come up from multiple sites. Being there as a Heartland Mama's podcast, I was tweeting, and I'm like, this is a pain in the, I don't want to do this.
Doing the ads, and it was really difficult. And a lot of times when I'm at these candidate events, I am hashtagging their hashtag over and over and over again. Like you, it was like, okay, I did it once, that's enough. I'm not going to keep doing this. It's too much work. And there wasn't enough people in the room to make it blow up, so you would keep, because if you use one hashtag, Joe Biden people, and I'm saying this for all
and
of
it can
candidates.
be for everything that happens in Iowa. So your steak dinners, your gatherings, your festivals, your meetings, everything. So it's the whole birth of
and you need to,
what
you need
you
to
do,
get
and
on
it's
that.
under Joe
And
for Iowa.
The other thing we noticed, and being strong union supporters, union families.
I got real
There was
huffy.
no union. Yeah, she
Got
did.
in your face.
She was. There's no union bug on any of his materials that were there.
No, and the
That bothered
paper
me.
was a good quality paper.
Yeah.
And Heidi said, well, sometimes in campaigns, they run out of stuff.
So you run
and
to the nearest Staples and you get it
someone
done.
should have known better. And if they didn't, they know what to do, print it in-house. You don't, they were glossy, they were cut, and they were all these
You
random
could tell
ones,
they
Joe
were-
for Iowa, you know.
They were professionally cut and made, and the thing is that you can do a little bit of extra to make your campaign more cohesive. Now, Murray does this for a living. I had to learn it the hard way as a candidate. There's so many things that you miss, those little details, but you know what? There's a lot of union
And
guys
it
in that
even,
room.
there was. So I took a couple
You
pictures, and there were some, a group of African-American men, black men who were, very sharply dressed. I think they might have been politicians,
They might have
councilmen.
been leaders.
We don't know
leaders.
who they were.
We don't know who they were.
But
Yeah,
on
we
the
weren't
other
infused.
side of them was the rest of the chairs in that row were all union guys.
They
and
were
you could
sharp-dressed
tell-
men. They were a bunch of sharp-dressed men.
You could tell that they were upper management within the union, leaders, etc.
or something.
And seeing them there, and then hearing the night before Joe talk about unions and making them strong and blah, blah, blah.
So
Put
don't
your
leave out the
money where your
printers.
mouth is. That's a stupid mistake. That's an unforced error.
Mm-hmm.
And that pissed me off.
So it was a small little thing, and Murray is really about the details where I go into the emotion.
Because to me, and the emotion, Heidi is right, is so important. But personally, I think that a part of the emotion comes from everything around it.
Yeah.
And that if you're good at what you do, you can create the environment around it so people understand better what you're all about.
So that wraps up. Joe Biden, amazing foreign policy guy.
Yeah.
And because I was up close and looked him right in the eye, he is tan, rusted, and ready, and he looks damn healthy. So I know your mom was concerned about his age. I didn't see any problem. But then again, my dad's 97 and drove until a couple years ago and still lives in his own house.
But
so.
that's like my mom. But like she said, there are
I wouldn't
days she
trust my pops
can't.
with
She
policy
knows
at
she
this
can't
point.
go out and wash the windows on a ladder
Yeah.
because it's too windy.
So you hire somebody.
And you have to start thinking about things and your health. And when he slips to her, even though
It's
he
word
always
salad.
has,
Yeah.
it's a hint of dementia. And
But if you knew,
I
if you
know,
followed
but
Joe
I'm
Biden,
just
he
saying
has
this is the
always done this.
impression
Yeah.
of the rural, white, Catholic, 80-year-old lady.
Well, I got nothing on that because I just, like I said, I was right there. And I think as any good public servant does, you surround yourself with people who can wash your windows.
Oh, she's PO'd at Yednock, by the way.
Oh, we'll talk about that on another show. This is my state representative who's...
We've talked about it before. We'll
Yeah.
talk about it again.
So, her mom is pissed at. And so, and I'm over him. So, here's the thing. When you are a public servant, you surround yourself with really great people. And whether it's to wash your windows or help you write your speeches or make sure you don't do gaffes or that you are fully versed on policy for something, because you can't know everything.
No,
you can't. Unless you're Neil Muhammad, then you know everything. So
hey, no, I got Neil on a couple things. Don't even try.
Well, listen, we were on a trivia team together, and I knew.
Well, trivia doesn't count. It's kind of,
Yeah, I know. It's random facts.
But we are about to wrap up, but we did want to give a huge shout out to Nancy Pelosi.
Who was the adult in the room yesterday, in a room of white men.
All
this tiny
men.
little woman that maybe weighs 100 pounds stood up and delivered. She stood and delivered the facts on Turkey, the facts on the Kurds, the facts on foreign policy to the President of the United States.
In a respectful, strong way. Maybe a tad bit condescending, like he was a kindergartner, but still not overtly condescending.
He refuses to surround himself with people who will tell him when he's wrong and will tell him the facts of the matters. He surrounds himself with yes men and patsies and people who will go to the mat for him for things that are totally asinine. We are endangering the health of the world at this point. This is why I made that swing, because domestic policy is in healthcare is like usually my hot button issues, but after what we have done, where we've turned all of our allies into enemies and our enemies into our allies, when we are in bed with Turkey and Russia and Saudi Arabia and North Korea.
I want to ask the Republicans out there, if there's any listening, I want to ask y'all, we pulled out of Syria instantaneously.
Without any plan.
4 days go by where Turkey attacks, where ISIS fighters are released, where ISIS members are released. We go through 4-5 days and y'all don't come out and say this is wrong. And it was only this weekend that Fainting Couch Lindsay, it's 7 days. Adam Kinzinger.
No, he actually came out and said something.
But not,
But he always says stuff and he doesn't do anything.
Right, but even, look at freaking Lindsay, Leningrad Lindsay, my frustration level is that it took so long for you to say no. Why?
This toddler in chief.
The consequences have been happening since it happened 7 days ago. Why did your poll numbers tell you that it was a good thing to be against? I'm furious about it. So Nancy?
Thumbs up. When the first things that the Turks hit, hospitals, refugee camps, and prisons, so that the ISIS people could be let go.
And then we bombed our own armory.
Well, we had to, because we got out so fast we didn't bother to take all our shit with us. Oh God, I swore on our podcast again. But that's the truth.
She's got a no mouth.
Well, here's the thing. When we pull out by a tweet, when we direct our armed services, our armed forces by a tweet, when we do foreign policy by a tweet, I think there should be a law that presidents cannot tweet foreign policy. Period. That's asinine. That's reckless. That is going to get people killed, and it has gotten people killed. When the murder, the blood on the hands of the Republican Party is the Kurds, and you all did it, and you let the toddler in chief, now I'm in your face, you let the toddler in chief do whatever he wants so that you could stack the federal courts and line your pockets with your 50 pieces of silver.
And repeal Social Security.
And now people are dead, and it is your fault. We have children in cages on the border. It is your fault. We have people dying the Kurds dying in
it's your fault
Syria.
Walmarts are getting shot at.
It is your fault people are dying by mass murder. It is your fault people are dying from lack of health care. It is your fault that we have the greatest income and wealth gap than we've ever had in our history. It is your fault.
It's on your head. So thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe. Subscribing is really important.
We can't tell you how important following and subscribing is because it helps us monetize this podcast so that we can keep it going.
And we pay for the storage, we pay for the website, we pay for gas going to and from places.
We don't do this. We do this out of our own pockets. And
so if you can subscribe and share, that makes a big difference.
It does make a big difference.
If you want to donate, we do have a donate button. We would appreciate anything you think that the value is worth.
www.heartlandmamas.com will bring you to
everything.
All of our podcasts, all of our
social
audio
media.
and video. Yep, and a donate button. And we are looking for advertisers, for sponsors. And we have a couple coming up. We'd also like to put out thank you to Chris Henry, our producer, who, even though we've had numerous problems with our equipment, he always comes and rescues us.
Chris Henry, 2 thumbs up, man.
And remember, make racism wrong again. Elijah Cummings,
rest in peace. Bye-bye.